They had told me that I had miscarried. Out of nowhere, I get this excruciating pain in my lower left pelvic area. It whispers to me, "You're pregnant." Fear overtook me at that time. Your ultrasound is very suspicious for an ectopic pregnancy. Out of nowhere, again, severe, intense pain, worse than before. Just crying out to God again in the ultrasound, "God, like, where are you?" My left fallopian tube has ruptured. I am bleeding internally and I need to go to surgery immediately. Hello, my name is Abigail. I am creator of A Beloved's Encounter, and I'm here to share my story with you. Before I do, I think it's important that you know a little bit of my background. I was born and raised in Texas, grew up with a big family. My grandfather led a church in Kingsville, Texas, there in South Texas. I also have two uncles there in the Corpus Christi area that do have their own churches and lead their own churches. At the time of my story in 2013, where it begins, I would say that I didn't know God, didn't seek God, didn't have a relationship with God. September 2013, I have been married for 9 years now, have a son who is 6 years old, and we had just found out that this was my second pregnancy. We were expecting a new child in the family. We were happy to expect a new child in the family. But very quickly, things changed and did not seem right. It was the week of Halloween in 2013, in October, where something just didn't seem right. I would start to have cramping. I also started to have some spotting with my pregnancy. I ended up going to the ER. And they had told me that I had miscarried. I remember being in the ER and the lady, I was devastated. I was upset, like very, very shocked. This is something that we didn't expect, of losing a child, kind of thing. And I remember the doctor in the ER, she was so kind at the time. And I was just trying to figure out, why did this happen? How did this happen? And she looked me in the eye and told me, like, sometimes we don't know why this stuff happens. It just happens. She was very calm and, like, wanted to make sure that it was nothing that I did that caused the miscarriage of this child. So going past that, it took a couple of weeks to kind of recover and get past the loss of a child, kind of thing. And I find myself now, the next following year in January, it was now January 2014. It was the end of the month of January, heading into February. I knew me and my husband had a couple of days off for my son. It was his birthday, and we were planning on taking my son to Disneyland, which we did. When we came back, we had a couple of days left before we had to go back to work. I remember it being a Saturday. It was a Saturday, and my husband was making some kind of barbecue or something for my son's birthday weekend. Out of nowhere, I get this excruciating pain in my lower left pelvic area. It was constant, would not let off. Very extreme pain. So I told my husband, this is not subsiding. I need you to take me to the ER. So he did. He took me to the ER, and thinking nothing of it, they ran all kinds of tests, like they do, to try to figure out what it is that, is causing this pain. And one of them being a pregnancy test, which was pretty normal. It's usually, I work in the medical field, and anybody comes in for abdominal pain, urine pregnancy test, that's one of the first things they do to rule out a pregnancy. Didn't think anything of it, thought it would come back normal, negative. I was wrong. The doctor comes to me after I did the testing and he whispers to me, "You're pregnant." Immediately, going back to the situation that happened back in September, October last year, I can't do this again. What if I lose this baby? What if, all these things start running through your mind, like fear and what if this happens or that happens? Your mind starts taking control, and fear overtook me at that time. So as they continue to run tests, they also did ultrasound. The doctor ordered me ultrasound to find out how far along I was in the pregnancy. The results came back. They couldn't see anything. They did a transvaginal ultrasound. They could not see anything in the ultrasound, which resulted in, the doctor said, "You're very early in your pregnancy. This is a very, very fairly new pregnancy. You need to go home. You need to rest." They sent me home with pain medication, and they booked me another appointment in a couple of days to see my gynecologist in the doctor's office. When I went back to see the doctor in the doctor's office, she also did an ultrasound in the doctor's office there. She at the time, she couldn't see anything either. She was trying to figure out too, like, okay, where is this pregnancy? This pregnancy is not in the uterus where it should be, right? It's thinking it's a very early pregnancy. They're not seeing anything. So she sends me to the ultrasound tech in the hospital, the people who know, who do ultrasounds day after day after day, to get them to take a look and see if they can find anything. So that's what I did. So I left her office. I went straight over to the hospital side so that we could do ultrasound. It's a formal ultrasound in the hospital there. I completed the ultrasound there. It was towards the end of the day. I was ready to go home after all the labs and the testing that she had ordered for me too as well. Not knowing, at the time, what I do now, I realize now that she sent me for a formal ultrasound for the specialist in the hospital to do it, because she may have seen, I think she saw something suspicious in the ultrasound when I was in the doctor's office, is why she sent me there. She calls me a couple hours after completing that ultrasound that was done in the hospital by the specialist. She says, "Hey, I think what is going on is that she says, your ultrasound is very suspicious for an ectopic pregnancy." For those who don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, it's when the baby does not make it to the uterus and implants in your fallopian tube and stays there. She said, you need to go to the ER. Like, this cannot wait till tomorrow. You need to head to the ER so that you can get treatment. So I did. I was on my way home because I had already done all the labs, all the ultrasound that she had asked me. So I was almost home when she called me, and I had to go back to the ER that same day. When I got to the ER, she already had made a phone call to the doctors there telling them, this is what's going on with her case, So when I got there, the doctors explained to me more in detail what they found, and they gave me two options. Number one, either we can give you an injection for methotrexate. What this does is it stops the growth of the baby to where it dissolves and it's able to resolve on its own. Or number two, they could take me into surgery and have it completely removed and it would be resolved immediately. Because I did not want to go to surgery, I chose the injection. Out of my ignorance, I chose the injection, to do the injection. The doctors gave me two options. They were not the options I wanted to hear. I felt like I was kind of stuck in a situation that I had like no way out. So in my ignorance, I chose the injection. That evening in the ER, the nurses gave me the injection, talked to me about precautions, what to expect, and if anything got worse, to come back to the ER, and sent me home. The next week, time passed. The next week, time passed, thinking that, every day I'm thinking like, okay, how is this going to be resolved? Nothing's happening, nothing's changing, nothing seems to be resolving. It is now about another week and a half later. It is now Valentine's Day, which I think it was a Friday or Saturday. I can't remember at the time. I remember going to work feeling so crummy, like again with abdominal pain and bleeding, like spotting, and like nothing had been resolved. So I come home from work. And my husband is already at home. He had plans. He already was making dinner. He had plans of making dinner for me because it was Valentine's Day. Through this week and a half of not being this pregnancy not being resolved, I knew that he was trying to do something for me to kind of get my mind off of things, I should say. But at this moment, I wasn't feeling well. I had abdominal pain, wasn't feeling well. And I got home and I said, I'm not feeling well, babe. I think I need to go back to the ER. The table was set. He had completed dinner. He was just waiting for me to get home. And I felt so bad. When I told him that, his head just dropped. He took me to ER. So we head over to the emergency room, not feeling well. My husband takes me over. The doctors run all kinds of tests. Again, ultrasound, same thing. They can't find anything in the they can't find no baby in the uterus. They don't see anything else that's changed. They sent me home with pain medications and precautions. Again, if anything worsens or changes, to come back to the ER. The following day, like a normal Sunday, it's a normal Sunday. Me and my family, my son, my husband, and I get ready for church. Sunday morning, go to church. And I remember the pastor doing an altar call towards the end of the service. It's now been almost 2 weeks. The doctors can't tell me what's going on, can't figure out what's going on with me. The ultrasounds are not showing anything. I'm just so tired mentally, physically. It's so draining on me, being having pain and not knowing where to go from here. So I'm in church. The pastor does an altar call. I go to the front because I felt like I needed prayer, kind of thing. My husband right behind me, goes with me. And I remember specifically one of my friends, she follows me up there right behind me, also praying for me. And at that point, at the front, there was a whole bunch of people up in the front. And I remember calling out to God, I was like, God, I'm just so tired of dealing with this. I don't know where to go from here. How is this going to be resolved? How to to get past this, you know? The doctors can't tell me anything. The ultrasound says the same thing. I don't know where to go from here. And it was I remember the pastor praying and then ending the prayer and then ending the service, and he's dismissed the church. And it was that moment. I remember that moment, out of nowhere again, severe, intense pain, worse than before in my left abdominal pelvic area. So I tell my husband, hey, I can't move. Like, this pain is like just hit me out of nowhere and I can't move. He somehow gets me to the car and takes me to the ER. I don't know how he does it, but he gets me in the car, takes me to ER, and the doctors already know my case. They quickly get me in to do ultrasound. But this time it was a little bit different because there was a nurse that was with me. It was a male nurse that was with me. He stuck with me. He's like, hey, when he took me to the ultrasound to do ultrasound, he said, I'm sorry, but I have to stay in the room with you. I said, it doesn't, I don't, it doesn't matter. I don't care at this point. I mean, he said he needed to stay there. He was assigned to me to make sure that, you know, it could, because it was a serious situation. You know, he didn't want to leave me in the situation that I was in and me possibly, how would I say, you know, things going bad kind of thing. So we're in the ultrasound room. He's doing the ultrasound, and I just remember like just crying out to God again in the ultrasound. God, like, where are you? I remember that very, very distinctly. Where are you, God? Looking back now, I just kind of realized that the whole time, throughout this time, God has been with me. So they do the ultrasound, they get the results back, and the ultrasound results come back that my left fallopian tube has ruptured. I am bleeding internally and I need to go to surgery immediately. They rushed me into surgery. They acted quick. They got me into surgery. Surgery went well. They repaired the area, they stopped the bleeding. And over the next couple weeks and months, I would spend time recovering from this surgery, and then also mentally from the loss of a second child. This was 2014. Yes, this was February 2014. Fast forward the next couple years, I want to mention this. The next several 10 to 11 years, I would have issues. I would continuously, on and off, have issues with pelvic pain and what the doctors called sexual dysfunction. In November 2024, this was 10, 11 years later after the surgery that I had, this ectopic pregnancy, I came across a video of a lady who was talking about her abortion, her situation. The circumstances were not the same, but the results were the same. The situation that I was in, I had no control over. But the situation that she was talking about in the video that I came across was her talking to a minister and how she chose to have an abortion. And after this abortion, she would constantly deal with pelvic pain. In this video, the lady confesses to the minister that she had an abortion, and the minister begins to tell her, hey, do you have pelvic pain? She's like, how do you know? The minister begins to tell her, well, when you decide to have an abortion, you come into a contract with Moloch, which it describes in Leviticus 20. If you go to Leviticus 20, it tells you, shows you there that she made a contract with Moloch, and through doing that, it binds you in a contract, not knowing, you not knowing that you're bound in it's a covenant, it's a covenant that you make with Moloch out of your agreement of going through an abort or having an abortion. She's completely shocked. She didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about it. So the minister begins to minister to her and tell her, okay, well, this is what you need to do. You need to repent for what you did. You need to renounce, and you need to replace the covenant with Moloch with the covenant Jesus Christ dying on the cross for you. At that moment, I stopped the video and I did exactly that. I repented to God for doing, out of my ignorance, taking the baby's life, making a choice to do the injection. Looking back now, I know that it's labeled an abortion, and I shouldn't have done that. But fast forward now, 2024, I am now seeking God, I'm seeking Christ, have a relationship with God, and I realize that this is labeled an abortion of what I did. So so what I do is I repented for exactly that, for taking my child's life. I renounce the covenant with the Moloch that was done out of my ignorance, not knowing that choosing the injection would stop the growth of the baby and eventually end the baby's life. And I replaced it with the new covenant of Jesus Christ, knowing that he died for me on the cross. So I prayed to God, and it was that moment when I finished doing that, I hit the play button again on that video, and that minister begins to cast out that evil infirmity, the spirit of Moloch, out of her life. And I hear it playing in the video. It was that moment, all of a sudden, my left side of my pelvic pain, I don't even know how to describe it. The best way that I could describe it is my left side of my pelvic area shook, like almost like a vibration, like it was dislodging itself from my pelvic area, and it left me. I felt it leave me. Ever since that, I had never dealt with any more pelvic pain, no more sexual dysfunction that the doctors told me that I had. All of that resolved. Can you pause it there? The Bible says, my people perish for lack of knowledge. It's important to search the scriptures out. I'm telling you, you need to search the scriptures out. We need to be able to be vigilant, not ignorant about the things in life. Out of my ignorance, I realized, I only was given two options. If I had to go back, I probably would have chosen to do nothing in the situation. I probably would have chosen to do nothing and probably take a couple days to pray about it, is what I should have done. But I didn't. And forgiveness is very important. I remember being in church and hearing God say forgiveness. And I really thought it was for someone else, and that I needed to forgive someone. I thought that's what it was. But what he was really saying to me was, I've already forgiven you. Now you need to forgive yourself. And it's very important for you to do so. Give yourself grace. Forgive yourself. And you need to understand that no matter what happens, get back up. If you fall, get back up. Look to God to pick you back up and keep going. We're always going to make mistakes in life, but we need to learn to seek God out and ask God, what does He think about the situation? It was later that year, 2014, September 2014, that God blessed me with another son. I got pregnant again with him, with my son, carried him full term, no issues, no problems. And he is the sweetest little boy anybody could ever ask for. It's kind of one of those things, it's like you have two kids and you think they would be the same and they're completely different. He is so funny and he doesn't even try. But he is the sweetest little boy that God is, and I'm so thankful for God for him. And I'm so blessed to be his mother. But I want to say this, I think that it's important that if you are struggling with this with something similar to this situation, it's very important for you to take time out. Seek God in the situation. Ask God what He has to say about it. Give yourself grace and forgive yourself. Repent and forgive yourself. I think it's so important to do that. So I want to share with you this one verse, which is really one of my favorite verses that I kind of lean on. It's James 5:16, and it says, "Confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so that you may be healed. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great, powerful, and produces wonderful, great results." I think it's important for each person to not be isolated in this time that you're going through. Confess your sins to one another. Seek out somebody who can help you get through this time. You should not be isolated. That's what the enemy wants you to be when things like this happen. He wants to isolate you and keep you by yourself, that so things will begin to spiral out of control and you wouldn't know where to go from there. So I encourage you to walk. We're supposed to walk with each other, do life with each other, confess to each other. It's very important to confess to each other, because I believe that once you confess that sin that you have that's hiding way deep down in, it comes to the light. And once it's brought to the light, the enemy has no more hold over you. He has no more chains to keep you in bondage. It's very important for you to do that. So I just want to leave you with that. And I hope that this testimony blesses you. Thank you.